you are a wilderness guide, specializing in the Arctic regions. And yeah, I'm super curious about first, I mean, I know you are not from Svalbard. I think mostly people come here from other places. So it's really like a very cosmopolitan place, I believe. Yeah, what brought you here? What first times, I guess?
Well, I came here for the first time last January for my first season. So I applied for, I only applied for one company because I got a recommendation. So I work with Better Moments, and they do a smaller company and they work with smaller groups. And I got a recommendation from a guy who I was working with in Lapland 3-4 years ago. And he said, I've worked in this company and I can recommend them. And I said, if I go to Svalbard, I will only go there if I know that the company I go to is reliable, because obviously there's a lot of responsibility involved in working as a guide here. So I spoke with him, he recommended them, and I sent them an email. And yeah, things worked out. I got the interview in 2023 in September. And then I gave me the contract a week later, and I arrived end of January. And the main motivation behind that was because when you're a guide here, there's a lot more responsibility, a lot more stuff that can go wrong, also a lot more stuff that can go right. And I was looking to kind of be more self-reliant, be able to grow and develop myself into the career of being a guide. And for that, if you want to work in the Arctic and you want to work in these colder regions of Earth, then you have to come here, because it's also, as a career, it opens so many doors if you do your job right and if you meet the right people. So yeah, that was the main motivation, and now it's in my second year.
So you basically applied and came here without really knowing the place.
Yeah, well, I saw it on Google Maps, and then I asked the guy who recommended the company to me, how is it? And he says it's something you'll never see again, something amazing and unique, and people come here over and over again every year because it's so incredibly like once in a lifetime that he said that it will be worth it. And there was a lot of fear, of course, attached to it, a lot of new things happening, right? Something you never encounter in any other places in the world. But yeah, I didn't. And then, everything else I said in the interview, the only thing I have is a lot of books that I can read and I can prepare, and anything else you can teach people. And that's pretty much what I've been doing since then. Yeah.
So there's many things that you have mentioned that I would like to explore with you. So, but first of all, so you have been in the north. You mentioned you were in Lapland, but that's also not where you're originally from. So what brought you north? Was that a conscious decision, or did it somehow just happen?
When I studied in Germany, I studied in the south of Germany, and in at these EU universities, you can do something called an Erasmus program.
Yeah.
And 2018, I applied for an Erasmus program in England, and then they said, nope, you're not going to England. We can recommend you to go to a university in the southeast Finland.
Okay.
And so I thought, why not? It was like a bit of a breaking point in my life. A lot of changes were happening. So I thought there's nothing to lose, so I'll go for Finland. And I've always been someone who liked the outdoors. I've always been someone who liked to be outside and to be more in the forest and in nature. And I like the fresh air. So for me, that was pretty much a no-brainer. So I said yes. And when you go to Finland as an exchange student, you pretty much do this obligatory trip up to Lapland. And I did it with a few friends, and we rented a car and drove all the way up. It's like a 9-hour drive one way. And then we rented a hostel there for 2 nights. And then of course, we kind of traveled around the area. And that's when I discovered, I met the dog handler who worked at the dog place that I applied for later. And that kind of things just got in motion, I knew that I wanted to come back. I loved the cold and all the snow and the typical, Arctic environment that many people look for when they want to book a winter holiday. And so I applied for the company, and then I came back and left Germany pretty much in the height of the pandemic with the last flight before the lockdown.
Oh.
So it pretty much got things rolling, when you make one decision, and it kind of just it became pretty much like a landslide of decisions that led to the next one, and so on. So, and now I'm here, and it's been pretty conscious, the decisions. Yeah. Although, sometimes you just run into things that you didn't expect.
Yeah. Or we can ask what comes first, right? Is there something in you that's a decision, and then the things happen anyway because the decision has been or was there before, right? The kind of the attraction that we talk about also, that once our mind is clear, things kind of fall into place.
Yeah. I usually do it the way that if I have a decision that I want to make, that I arrange everything around it so I know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so that meant you left the place you grew up in after university, I understand? Right?
No, I moved out of home when I was 17. So I've been living alone for 15 years now. So I've moved out when I was 17. Then I moved from North Germany to the South when I was 20. And then when I was 23, I moved to Finland.
Yeah.
So I've always been kind of interested in moving from one place to the next. So, and it was never, subconsciously, it was never the idea to stay in Germany. It was too full. It's too crowded. I didn't know what to do. And so, yeah, it was always fine. That was something I was used to, moving from one place to the next.
And then in terms of a career, so-called, that's also something I hear from people, that it may not always be easy if you do not go into so-called traditional career, or that people may have expectations. You studied, obviously, I mean, did the move to Lapland mean a break in what your studies may have prepared you for? And how did that feel? Or
I remember when I had my first job interview, that was supposed to go outside of after my bachelor's degree. I studied rhetoric and English in the South Germany, and I had an interview with an agency who did digital marketing. And I had an interview, and they offered me a traineeship, and that was for 2.5 years, and learning, basically being like an apprentice. And that's when I pretty much started to panic, because I thought, so I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to go to live in an office for the next 45, 50 years. Right. And that was a big kind of proponent of my decision to wanting to leave. It was part of it was also an escape. But that was the first time I actually really thought about I had to go, because nothing of this appealed to me. Nothing of this felt in any way appealing or interesting or attractive anymore when I thought about going to the same job every morning and to the same place. So in that case, the studies in itself I kind of put on the side, because I had a master's degree that I was supposed to take during COVID, so everything from home. So that also was another motivator as to why I wanted to leave. And then I didn't really think about a lot if my studies were going to interject with what I was going to do. Now they do, because I basically speak for a living and I speak English. So it's everything's kind of worked out. But I never really thought about that back then. I just thought I don't like where I am, so I'm going to change it. And if it will somehow interject with what I'm going to do for my studies, then it's great. But otherwise, never really thought about it. No.
Nice. And then when you arrived in Lapland, so you spoke Finnish, or
no? I don't speak Finnish.
And so you had to build a life. Obviously, you worked so with dogs, and that was already kind of taking people onto trips.
Yeah. So initially, the trips they were at an Austrian-led company. So many people there spoke German and English also. So and that's the kind of advantage that you have when you work there. You didn't have to speak Finnish. And then there's a multicultural field of people from all kinds of countries you meet. And the programs there were they were very special, because they weren't the usual 2-hour, 1-hour sled dog safari. They were multi-day trips. So you start off, you're a guide, you have a group of maximum 7 guests, and they all have their own dog sled. And then you went from one wilderness cabin to the next, going 40 to 60 kilometers every day. So it's a more intense program than the usual sled dog experience. It's also a lot more pricey, but it also gives you the opportunity to learn a lot more. And so that was already kind of going towards this idea of having more responsibility as a guide that I wanted. And so, that was the first kind of touch with it. And dogs, I've always loved dogs. I love dogs a million times more than I like cats. And so that was just felt right. Sometimes it just felt right. And so, that's what I did. And I'm happy I did it.